There is a kind of weariness that sleep cannot touch. You can lie beneath blankets for 8 quiet hours. Let the night cradle your body until morning paints the walls gold, and still wake with a gravity that drags from somewhere deeper than muscle or bone. It is the heaviness of a soul carrying a suitcase that has no handle, a luggage made of memories, expectations, unspoken disappointments, and the soft weight of trying too hard for too long. And when people ask, gently and with good intentions, "What's wrong?" you search for an answer and find nothing solid to hold. Because it is not one wound that bleeds. It is 1,000 paper cuts you learn to ignore, each one so small it never seemed worth mentioning, yet all of them together shaping a quiet ache that lives beneath the ribs. Those who grow tired of existing do not dream of erasure. They simply long for silence. The silence not of death, but of relief. The silence where the world stops shouting instructions. Be better, be stronger, be faster, be cheerful. Where the noise of comparison fades, where the performance ends, where you are no longer an actor in a play you never auditioned for. Psychologists name it emotional exhaustion, as if giving it a title makes it less personal, less intimate, less human. But exhaustion of the spirit is not clinical. It is ancient. It is the body's whisper. I cannot carry this alone anymore. You give and give, not always out of love, but often out of survival. You wake each day like a soldier reporting for duty in a war no one can see. And while the world claps for your productivity, your reliability, your resilience, something inside grows dim. Joy becomes a language you can no longer speak fluently. You remember that you once felt light, once laughed without effort, once believed tomorrow would be brighter. But the memory feels like an old photograph, faded at the edges. Science would tell you that the brain, under long siege, rearranges itself. That stress dulls the reward systems, steals dopamine from the circuits that once lit up when you heard music or smelled rain. Motivation becomes a flickering bulb, not yet burned out but struggling to shine. So when someone says, "I'm just tired," it is not laziness, nor indifference, nor apathy. It is a quiet confession. I have been strong for too long, and my strength has forgotten how to refill itself. There is a strange irony in the stories of the tired. They are rarely the ones who gave up. They are the builders, the mediators, the caretakers of others' hearts. They are the ones who held the pieces together when everyone else fell apart. They know how to survive chaos, how to keep calm in fire, how to hold themselves steady while the world shakes. But no one ever taught them how to rest, how to ask for help, how to be soft without apologizing for it. We live in a civilization that worships motion. Shattered sleep is heroic. Long hours are noble. Exhaustion is a badge of worth. Rest is treated like a luxury, something to be earned, something easily taken away, something you feel guilty for wanting. And so the tired carry on, believing that to stop is to fail, believing that if they breathe too deeply, the world might crumble. Yet the truth is quieter. People do not fall apart because they are weak. They fall apart because they stayed strong for too long. Every "I'm fine" that was a lie. Every smile worn like armor, every swallowed tear, every moment they kept the peace instead of speaking their pain. These choices add weight, grain by grain, until the soul bends under the accumulation. Sometimes the tired withdraw. Plans fade. Messages go unanswered. Conversations become effort. Not because they have stopped caring, but because caring has become too heavy. Even small talk feels like lifting stone. Silence becomes a shelter from emotional weather. Loneliness hurts, but it doesn't demand anything. It does not ask you to smile. It does not ask you to be okay. The world misunderstands this retreat as surrender, but it is not defeat. It is self-preservation. When storms roar, even animals hide. Fatigue is not only emotional, it is existential. There comes a moment when life becomes grayscale. Food tastes the same, music sounds distant. Time drips slowly through the mind like cold water. Morning arrives, and instead of hope, there is repetition. Wake up, function, pretend, sleep, repeat. And somewhere between the hours, a question forms. Not dramatic, not loud, but fragile as a thread. What is the point of all this? But the question is not a sign of collapse. It is a sign of awakening. When the soul asks why, it is because some hidden part of you still wants an answer, still wants meaning, still wants a life that feels like living, not enduring. Tiredness is a messenger. The body speaks when the mouth does not. The spirit rebels when fate asks too much. Exhaustion is the crack in the surface where truth begins to leak through. It is the subconscious whispering, you have outgrown something, a job, a life, a version of yourself. Somewhere beneath the fatigue is a desire, not for death, but for peace. A desire to rest in a life that doesn't hurt to inhabit. A desire for gentleness, authenticity, breath. Psychologists once learned a truth from a man who lived through the darkest invention of humanity. Viktor Frankl wrote that people can survive almost any suffering if they have a reason. A why. Meaning is medicine. It does not erase pain, but it transforms it into something survivable. And when people begin to rediscover meaning, energy returns, not like lightning but like dawn, slowly, quietly, almost unnoticed. There is a difference between exhaustion because life is pointless and exhaustion because you are rebuilding. Perhaps the goal is not to eliminate the tiredness. Perhaps the goal is to listen to it, to treat it not as a curse, but as guidance. Exhaustion is the soul tugging your sleeve saying, this life no longer fits. Something must change. Maybe it is a career that drains you. Maybe it is a habit of pretending. Maybe it is the lonely feeling of being surrounded by people who see your smile, but never the storms behind your eyes. And if you feel that ache, the silent rebellion of your spirit, know this: you are not failing. You are awakening. There is a quiet beauty in those who have known emotional exhaustion. They become soft where the world is sharp. They notice sadness without needing it explained. They hold others the way they wish someone had held them. Their compassion is not academic. It is born from survival. They know the cost of pretending. They know the value of truth. And exhaustion, for all its heaviness, strips life to the essential. It exposes what matters and what is illusion. It teaches you that existence is not measured in productivity, but in presence, in the ability to breathe without performing, in the gentle act of being authentically alive. If you recognize yourself in these words, the invisible fatigue, the quiet ache that follows you into each morning, remember this: you are not alone. The world is full of people who smile in public and break in private. You are not strange for feeling this way. You are simply human in a society that has forgotten the importance of rest. You do not need to force joy. You do not need to fake energy. You do not need to solve your life by tomorrow. All you need for now is to stop running from your tiredness and begin listening to it. Exhaustion does not mean ending. Sometimes it is the first step of beginning again. The first moment of healing is honesty, not to others, but to yourself. When you whisper, "I am so tired," something shifts. The mask cracks. The performance pauses. And for the first time, the soul steps forward and says, "Let me speak." You have tried noise, distractions, goals, new habits, new screens. But meaning does not arrive through movement. Meaning arrives through stillness, through noticing the tiny sparks you forgot how to see, raindrops on a window, music that understands your heart better than words ever could, the way silence feels when it is gentle instead of empty. Rest is not laziness. Rest is repair. And when the repair begins, slowly, timidly, you start to see how much of your life was not lived but survived. You were not choosing joy, you were managing pain. Not building a future, but avoiding collapse. The brain protects us that way. It prioritizes safety over happiness. But safety without meaning becomes a quiet prison. The truth no one says aloud is this: when you are tired of existing, it is because you want a life that feels worth existing in. You want depth, not distraction. Intimacy, not performance. Peace, not applause. Existential fatigue is not emptiness. It is the soul demanding authenticity. You can have comfort, stability, even success, and still feel hollow if none of it aligns with who you really are. Humans were not made merely to survive routines. They were made to be moved, to be touched, to feel alive in the ordinary. And so the tired begin to ask dangerous questions, the kind that can undo entire lives. What would I do if I stopped trying to impress everyone? Who would love me if I stopped pretending? What if rest is not failure but wisdom? Those questions are small keys to locked doors. Energy does not come only from sleep or food. It comes from alignment. When life matches truth, the spirit lifts. When life contradicts it, even breathing feels like work. What can a tired soul do? It begins with honesty. Soft, simple honesty. Notice what drains you. Notice what nourishes you. Notice the people who make your chest feel lighter and the ones who tighten it. Notice the parts of your life that feel like obligation and the parts that feel like oxygen. Healing is not dramatic. Sometimes it is simply removing what hurts, slowly, gently, without apology. Along the way, you discover that the world was not demanding perfection. You were. You set standards no human can carry. You believed rest was a privilege rather than a birthright. You feared that slowing down meant falling behind. But behind what? Behind whom? No one truly knows where they're going. Everyone is just trying to find small reasons to stay. And when you stop measuring your worth in comparison to others, something miraculous happens. Peace becomes possible. There is a quiet revolution that begins the moment you accept your exhaustion without shame. You stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and start asking, what is my soul trying to tell me? That shift is the turning of the tide. You start to notice wonder again. Not the cinematic kind, but the simple kind. The warmth of tea between your palms, a bird landing on a windowsill, the hush of night, the softness of your own breathing. Life does not need to be extraordinary to be meaningful. It just needs to be felt. Feeling is something adults forget. We learn to analyze, optimize, perform. But we are rarely taught how to sit with sadness without fixing it, how to hold joy without fearing its loss, how to let life touch us without building armor. People who are tired of existing are not numb because they do not care. They are numb because everything cared too deeply for too long. The way back is not through control, but surrender. To be human again. To cry without explanation. to rest without guilt, to admit you do not know what comes next, not as failure, but as freedom. And here, the path to continuation begins, because sometimes the bravest act is not pushing forward, but stopping long enough to hear your own heartbeat again. There are studies, tucked away in quiet corners of psychology, that speak of awe as medicine. Not grand, cinematic awe, just small encounters with wonder, watching clouds drift as if time has forgotten to hurry, listening to a song that cracks open something inside you, looking at the night sky and remembering that your existence is a single fragile breath inside an ancient universe. People who allow these moments to touch them report less despair, less burnout, because awe reminds a person that they are still capable of feeling, that the world hasn't gone silent even if their heart has. And maybe that is the hidden miracle. When you are tired of existing, the soul begins clearing space for rebirth. It removes illusions, strips away expectations, dismantles the false architecture you built to survive. What remains is raw, but real. You stop wanting a perfect life. You start wanting a true one, a life where you don't perform happiness. You experience it, even in small drops. If you are in that place where everything feels heavy, the mornings, the conversations, even the simple act of choosing what to eat, do not tell yourself you are behind. Behind what? Behind a world that races nowhere? Behind versions of people who only show their brightest moments? You are not behind. You are calling yourself home. Your tiredness is not a flaw. It is a compass. It points away from the noise and toward whatever is real for you. Sometimes toward quiet. Sometimes toward honesty. Sometimes toward change. And when the reconnection begins, even in the smallest ways, the world softens. There comes a moment when colors feel less faded, when music finds its way through the numbness, when laughter, unexpected and fragile, escapes your chest. Not because everything is fixed, but because you have stopped demanding perfection from your own heart. Healing is not loud. Happiness is not a performance. Sometimes the greatest transformation is learning to breathe in the life you already have. But understand this: the weight will return sometimes. There will be days when your bones feel made of stone, when your thoughts feel slow and heavy, when living feels like lifting the world. But now, you will know what it means. You will recognize the language of your own soul. You will hear fatigue as a message, not a verdict. You will say, "I am someone who feels deeply," and that is not a weakness. You will know that the ache does not mean you are breaking. It means you are alive. Perhaps being tired of existing is not a sign of failure at all. Perhaps it is the first moment you paused long enough to notice that you deserve more than survival. Perhaps it is the beginning of choosing a life that fits the shape of your spirit. And that beginning, gentle, fragile, honest, may be the first step toward everything you have been quietly longing for. Even so, there will be mornings when the sun crawls across your floor and you feel nothing, when the mirror reflects a face you know but cannot recognize, when the familiar routines feel foreign, as if you are walking through a life that once belonged to someone else. Do not fear this disorientation. The soul often unravels before it rebuilds. Identity is not a fixed statue. It is clay, softened and reshaped by time, pain, and awakening. Sometimes you must come apart to discover who you were meant to be, beneath all the roles, all the masks, all the quiet pretending. There is a tenderness in the way tired souls begin to heal, not by grand declarations or sudden transformation, but by small acts of permission. You allow yourself to say no, even when you once said yes out of obligation. You cancel plans that would exhaust you. You forgive yourself for needing rest. You begin to believe that you are allowed to be human, not a machine disguised in skin. And slowly, the inner landscape changes. Sleep begins to feel less like escape and more like shelter. Silence becomes peaceful instead of punishing. You start to savor moments, brief, unremarkable moments, because they remind you that you are still here, still breathing, still capable of noticing the world. A cup of tea, warming your hands, the first inhale of cold morning air. The sound of rain tapping against the window, steady and soft like a heartbeat. These are not small things. They are reminders. Life does not return all at once. It returns in fragments. Shards of light breaking through the cracks. A smile you didn't force. A night where sleep finds you easily. A day when the weight on your chest is a little lighter than before. Healing does not ask for perfection. It asks only for patience. There is a moment, quiet and easily missed, when you realize you have stopped surviving and started feeling again. It might come when you catch yourself humming a song you once loved, or when a friend's laughter reaches you, not just as sound, but as warmth. Or when you taste your favorite food and notice something like pleasure, faint but real. This is the soul waking up. Trauma, exhaustion, despair. These teach you to numb. Healing teaches you to feel without fear, to breathe without bracing, to live without apologizing for needing gentleness. And one day you look back and realize the tiredness was not the end of your story. It was the turning point. The quiet rebellion. The moment your spirit refused to keep dying in a life that demanded too much and offered too little. You learned that strength is not the ability to ignore your pain. Strength is the courage to face it, to listen to it, to let it guide you toward a different kind of existence, one with softness, honesty, alignment. Because the truth is this: we are not meant to move through life untouched. We are meant to be transformed by it, to crack and break and regrow in ways we never expected. The tiredness was not your enemy. It was your body protecting you, your mind signaling danger, your spirit saying, "This is not who I want to be. This is not the life I want to live." And when you finally listened, everything began again. And perhaps the most surprising part is how quietly life returns. Not with fireworks, not with revelation, but with breath. Healing is rarely cinematic. It is subtle, like a season changing while you weren't watching. Leaves turn slowly, snow melts grain by grain, spring arrives one petal at a time. And only when you look back do you realize, I am not where I was. Somewhere along the way, you begin to understand that you do not owe anyone a performance. Not your friends, not your family, not the world that praises your productivity more than your peace. You do not exist to impress or to endure. You exist to live, to feel, to notice your own heartbeat without apology. There is a kind of wisdom that only exhaustion can teach. The wisdom of limits, the wisdom of rest, the wisdom of saying no to what hurts, and yes to what heals. You learn that boundaries are not walls. They are doors that only open inward for the people and experiences that honor your soul. And slowly, your inner world shifts. You no longer chase noise to drown out your thoughts. You begin to seek quiet on purpose. Silence stops being a void and becomes a sanctuary. You sit in stillness and realize you are not empty. you are clearing space. Space for gentler dreams. Space for smaller joys. Space for a life that doesn't demand constant survival. One evening, you will find yourself laughing, and the sound will feel unfamiliar, like hearing your own voice after a long absence. But it will be real, and you will wonder how long it has been since joy felt effortless, since your chest felt light enough to hold laughter without cracking. And that is how healing enters, through the smallest door. You start to talk to yourself differently, not as a critic, but as someone who is finally on your own side. You do not ask why you are tired. You ask what needs tending. You do not demand results. You offer patience. You do not punish yourself for needing rest. You honor it the way you would honor a wounded friend, because you begin to realize you are that wounded friend, and you deserve tenderness all along. There is a point in every journey back to oneself where you stop hoping to become who you once were. You understand that the old version of you survived, but the new version seeks to live. The old self endured storms, held up walls, carried everyone else. The new self wants softness, wants warmth, wants a life where being alive does not hurt. You do not heal back into who you were. You heal into someone new, someone softer, someone wiser, someone who knows the value of quiet mornings, safe people, slow days, someone who does not apologize for needing less noise, fewer obligations, deeper meaning. And perhaps the greatest transformation is this: you stop seeing rest as a reward. You begin to see it as a birthright. Sleep without guilt, silence without fear, peace without permission. Because a life lived only in survival is not a life. It is a sentence. And you were never meant to be imprisoned by expectations, by exhaustion, by the invisible weight of being everything for everyone. You were meant to breathe, to feel, to unfold, slowly and beautifully, into your own existence. One day, you will wake up, not lighter, not ecstatic, not reborn, but steady. And that steadiness will be the first real sign that you are home again. Not the old home of pretending, not the fragile home of perfection, but a new home, built gently, quietly, honestly. A home inside yourself, a place where you can rest. And when the world finally grows quiet, when the noise dissolves and the expectations lose their gravity, you will feel something you have not felt in a long time: the simple warmth of being alive. Not performing, not striving, not surviving, just existing, gently, like a candle that no longer fears the darkness. You will look at your hands and realize they were never meant to carry the weight of the universe. You will look at your reflection and see a face that has suffered and endured, but also softened and learned. And you will understand that the tiredness was never your enemy. It was the doorway back to yourself, back to a life that moves at the pace of breath, back to moments that don't rush, hearts that don't demand, days that don't suffocate. You will learn to love the slow unfolding of your own existence, the quiet miracle of waking up to a world that no longer feels like a burden. And in that stillness, in that sacred return to your own soul, you will discover that the meaning you searched for was never hidden. You simply needed enough silence to hear it. And when you do, life will not just continue, it will begin.